The future is here.
Doing what you already knew and living it. The next Ka is Nekhet. Nekhet, from a leadership government perspective, is related to Was in a sense. It's actually a direct relationship is with Waj. Relationship is with Was in the context of military, armed forces, those forces that repel invasions to the country. Now, for an individual or for us on a smaller level, it's talking about martial arts. It's talking about hand-to-hand defense, combatives. It's talking about weapons training. When you go to the gun range, you are cultivating Nekhet. But most importantly, it brings us into a Black ancestral perspective of warriorhood, because its main thing that it deals with is purification. And part of that purification is not just through your sage and your meditation, but it also is responsible for purifying sexual energy. When we hear about how to deal with our sexual energy in modern spirituality, it's mainly based on breathing. You either don't have sex and you breathe, or you do have sex and you breathe, or you just breathe to circulate the energy. Well, from a Nekhet perspective, you also, male or female, would be engaging in your martial practice. Your punching, your letting it off at the gun range is a part of you moving that energy, that creative energy, and circulating it through the body. Nekhet has a relationship with Nekhet, has a relationship with the town Nekheb. It also has a relationship, we'll talk about another time, with Islam. This martial, we hear a lot about the connections between Christianity and Judaism with Kemet and Kush, but we don't hear enough about its connection with Islam. Nekhet is one of those teachings, is one of those Ka that directly connect, especially with the armed, that ability to go to war, that discipline aspect of it that we see in many Muslims, because discipline is another keynote of Nekhet. The reason why the mace is there, the reason why the axe is there, is because, once again, these are battle weapons. There's a ceremonial mace, and it's associated with Upper Kemet, which is Nekhet. The ceremonial mace we see, when we see the hands of kings, it's usually kings with the upper crown. You see pictures of King Narmer and other kings holding it in their hand. And as I said earlier about sex, the mace is also another phallic symbol. It's not just about bashing people over the head or the enemy over the head. It's also about cultivating your sexual discipline. And that's why you will see Nekhet also related to men. And you also will see Nekhet related to other interior that deal with discipline. Now, when it comes to, as I said, martial arts, and how from the Black ancestral perspective, how we approach martial arts, you see that the wavy line that is in Nekhet is related, one, to the waters of Nu, and it's relating to you following your purpose, tapping into your purpose, listening to it, gives you an infinite amount of energy, Nu, an infinite potential to defend your country, to defend yourself. You tap into a reservoir of energy, the waters, that no one can stop and no one can take away. Another perspective is it shows how Africans, Black people, approach, right? Strength is in flexibility. Strength is in flexibility, and strength goes together. You see that in the fitness industry, they're starting to wake up to this. A lot of focus on movement. You see people using the term lengthening is strengthening. But this concept of lengthening and strengthening and being strong in your ability to move is a Black ancestral concept that went into Angola or Nkola or Ankh, that goes into capoeira. And as we've seen the revitalization of many different African martial arts from the 60s, we see that the way that the people move, they move with that fluidity. It's in the power, versus European culture where it's a little bit more rigid and hard. And another video on fitness, that really goes into our neurofascial system and our fascia, how people of black ancestral descent have a little bit more of a flexible fascia, so we move a little bit more with rhythm, while people in the northern climates, the Europeans, their fascia is a little bit harder, so their movements are a little bit more. And I'll tell you a funny scene to watch to demonstrate that. When BET came out with their Black Panther, and you see the fight between Black Panther and Captain America, it's a great visual to illustrate the point I'm making about flexibility. Even the first Black Panther, the actual live film in 2018, where you see the first scene of T'Challa fighting when he's saving Lupita, and you see his movement and how he moved. These are ancient traditions. People are still doing these martial arts on the continent. And the last thing I want to say about Nekhet and the warrior aspect and how we do martial arts is it gives us the focus and the discipline, but it aligns us with our tradition and brings in the real spiritual aspect of martial arts, which we see in China, we see in the samurai. And I would be remiss if I left out, I know somebody's going to be saying I'm leaving out the fact that the first or the oldest pictorial of martial arts are at the tombs of Beni Hassan, where we see hieroglyphs of the men doing martial arts, doing movements, throws, kicks, and doing that martial work. So let me get back to Chinese part. So samurai, the code of the samurai, which in the Western world we love so much, this code of Bushido and the warrior and stuff. That code, that spiritual code is already locked into Nekhet. It's already locked into the integrity piece of how Black ancestral people deal with martial arts. And I would also be remiss if I didn't tell you that the samurai code originates, its motto originates from a black man, the black shogun in which the samurai code is modeled around. His name is Sakanoye no Tamura Maro. He was the shogun of the place that we now call Kyoto, and became the model of what we call samurai and the warrior code and the Bushido code. And we know that many of the blacks that went on to populate India, Southeast Asia, and I know because my paternal haplogroup, my paternal bloodline goes through Southeast Asia. Many of those people were people of the desert land. Many Nubians from Ethiopia, from Kush, went with the monsoon winds into India, into Southeast Asia. To make it practical, how Nekhet will work for us is in the self-defense of our family and our resources. It would be ridiculous to sit up here and talk about Sheps means get your resources up, Waj means get your resources up, and Ma'at deals with wealth and money and stuff like that without the means to protect it. How are you going to protect it? Not just legally. How are you going to physically protect your resources? We already have a history of showing us with Black Wall Street, with Rosewood, what happens when black people really don't have so much of the mindset. I don't even want to say the mindset. When black people really, that's not their primary focus when they get the wealth. We have seen many historical examples of when we build ourselves up with wealth, when we pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, there are unfortunately jealous, envious European white Americans who come and burn it down, who come and tear it down. And it's happened more than once. It's happened enough to tell us that we rebuilding what we, Astro Aura Nation, and others will rebuild and build will be threatened already. You should know by the energies of jealousy and envy. And it's not just from white people. It's other groups of people, even some black people. The next Ka is
Astro Aura, the future is here.